All right. Sister Joyce, can you read it again for us?
Sure, I do. Would you please scroll down? Okay, all right, it's okay now. The mind dwelling on sense objects develops attachment for them. From attachment springs up desire, and from desire, unfulfilled, ensues anger. From anger arises delusion, from delusion, confusion of memory, from confusion of memory, loss of reason, and from loss of reason, one goes to completely ruin.
Just for us to understand a bit better, can you simplify this? What does these two paragraphs says to us?
Okay, the mind dwelling on sense objects. Sense objects means whatever you see by your eyes, whatever you hear by your ears, whatever you taste by your tongue, whatever you feel by your touch. The human being is attracted to all these things. Like if you are watching a movie, if you like any actress, actor, you go on watching the second movie, another movie of that part. If you like any nature's part, you want to see that again and again. So even if in the company of a person, you see, if you like the person, you like the company to have again and again, and this develops the attachment. From attachment springs up desire, because the once you do it, again you want to feel it. So desire is always the certain thing at the root of the sense object. And from desire ensues anger. And if that desire is not fulfilled, you become angry. And this anger is expressed through many ways from your, it goes into jealousy, it goes into um, deprivation of the life. I mean, you can hate that person also sometimes because you don't get what you want. If you can't go to any place you would desire to go, if you want to go on a cruise, you cannot go. Slowly you become like, oh, I don't want to go on a cruise because you can't do it. Maybe lack of money, maybe physically you are not capable. So it becomes like, it goes into like a negative mode sort of a thing if your desire is not fulfilled. And it is expressed through anger, hate, or number of these feelings like that. There is a confusion of memory. This part, the confusion of memory, loss of reason. And you forget what is the original thing you were enjoying in that. It was the happiness, the pleasure, the whole thing that you enjoy from seeing it. By nature itself, you get happiness by watching this. But if you deprive yourself from that or you can't get it, then the original reason is mixed up. Why you get confused with the memory, with the loss of reason, and from loss of reason one goes to complete ruin. Here you ruin yourself because you can't become a balanced person. You can't detach yourself from the whole scenario. And then you ruin yourself means you forget your own self, what you really are. And you engage into all pursuing the sense objects. That's what I feel by all this paragraph, if it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge. Very good.
Right. So this thing, the man dwelling on sense subjects, develops attachment for them. So we know that, like our sister said, there are six senses, and these six senses are sight, vision, sound, hearing, and smell, olfactation, and taste, gestation, and touch, tactile perception. So these are the six common senses that we have. However, they have discovered by scientific studies that we have absolutely more than these senses, about 22 or 23 senses. And one of them is equilibrium perceptions. So that's the sense of balance that we need to, sometimes when your ear infection, you get an ear infection, you lose your balance. There's also a sense of movement that we have, and there's sense of temperature that we have. So a lot of other senses that we have, that are not listed in these 6 senses. So I'm not going to go through the whole list of them, but we just, because our focus is on what these senses can produce, and our focus is how do we interpret the data that we actually receive from these senses that the environment gives us. And so here we have, when we developed an attachment to these senses, is because we have interpreted certain data in our life. For instance, like smelling a rose is a nice thing, right? And you desire to smell a rose, and if somebody gives you a rose, or gives a lady a rose, she'll think it's nice. But if somebody throws it in her face, then that's unexpected. Even though the rose is nice, the lady might get angry because it's not what is desired. The way it's desired, the presentation that it is desired is wrong. So that's it goes. So the desire can be a good desire, and a misinterpretation of somebody throwing the rose to the lady will lead to anger because of the expectation given to that situation. Now, so basically, the anger is only one of the emotions that we have that we react. The other, there are five senses and six. There's also the sixth sense, they call it, which is the intuition that hasn't been sort of dealt with in this area. And a lot of females have that sense, like that. She says, I don't like this person, but I don't know why. He hasn't done anything wrong to me. But there's something that is telling me that I shouldn't like this person. So that's a sixth sense, that female intuition that's commonly known. And also even males have to a certain degree. That's a psychological impact. You see somebody and you say, oh, there's something wrong with this guy, and I can't tell what it is. So that's a sense that is a psychological perception that is not part of our senses. Now, there's basic 5 senses, right? So it can be added as a 6th one normally, and it's called the 6th sense. Now, in these 6 senses, they activate the 6 basic emotions, which is sadness, happiness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. That's what activates. As soon as we interpret the data that we receive through our senses, we react to it emotionally. Sometimes we react to it logically. Most of the time, it is the logical perception that produces the emotion attached to the logical perception. So this is important to remember that even if you interpret the data logically, it could trigger your emotions. And here we are talking about desire, and the desire here could be, like I said, could be good desire, but then it is actually interpreted. Once you interpret the situation in a different way, then it turns into an anger, right? So now we go to the next part, which is from anger arises delusion. What's delusion? Delusion is because you get angry. When you get angry, and we have to analyze. There are 2 different ways of getting angry. There are anger that are there's a justified anger. What's a justified anger? A justified anger when there is injustice happening, right? So today we were discussing about prior to everybody gathered about the Aboriginal rights being denied for 245 years or something like that. So, and that is for, our Aboriginal brothers, it has a justified anger attached to it, that we have been denied our rights. So justified anger, it means there is injustice to it. But how do we handle that anger? That's the important thing. Now, in the biblical perspective, we have a perfect example in Nehemiah. Nehemiah, he was faced with a situation. He was rebuilding the hewn walls of Jerusalem. He was being assigned by the Persian king to do that. And when he went to do that, he gathered all the people, and he was the governor of that place. Being a governor, he had authority to hang people, kill people, do whatever he likes with people, because he was the implementer of the law of the emperor at the time. So what happened is that as they were rebuilding the walls, the peasants or the farmers were actually giving a lot of their time to rebuild the walls, and because they were not working in their farms, they couldn't provide for their families, so they started borrowing from the rich people money, and so that they can live while rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And what happened is they eventually they had to sell their land to the rich people. They had to sell their kids, and so they got angry, and they came to this guy, the governor, and they said, do something. This is what our brothers are doing to us. It's not strangers. These are the people, the rich people, the Israeli rich people that are doing to us this. And so he goes, he said, it's written in the word that he said, I got angry. I got very angry. Right? So here he is, he's angry. So as an angry governor, he can come and grab these people and kill them and put other people and give their rights back to the peasants and return their money. He chose not to do so. He said, I got angry and I stopped and I thought about it. Right? And then when let me just finish this. And when he thought about it, he went and implemented a plan. What was his plan? He gathered all these leaders and said to them, you are doing the wrong thing by your brothers. And I need you to correct this, and I want you to have an oath with us now that you will actually return their lands and stop this, and you help them to. So he made, through his plan, then they took an oath and they all implemented that. Now, had they not implemented the oath, he had the authority to execute judgment. But he gave them the opportunity to do the right thing. And this is an example of when you get angry and you don't lose your reason.
Yeah.
And you remain within reason, and you actually come up with a solution that will fix the problem, not ruin the situation.
Win-win situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Homayun wants to say.
Yeah. See, when we dealing with anger, so everyone has experienced anger for whatever reason. But how come when we get angry, right? After some time we think about the reason for our anger, we doubt the very reason why we became angry, right? And sometimes we regret. I should have not become angry on that. I should have done much better. So that is the delusion. So anger brings delusion. Because you're angry, right? And you haven't got the right judgment, after that comes delusion, right? And that's why you're questioning yourself. Why did I become angry? And when the delusion comes, okay, there is a confusion of memory, right? So he says that leads to the confusion of memory, because when you are questioning what you did might not be 100% right, then what happens? Then you get confused in your memory, and you say that the things are not clear, and from the confusion of memory, your reason is gone. So the concept of reason, you see how they are chain reaction as what happened. It all starts with the five senses, right? And then it goes develop to form of the anger, right? And anger brings the delusion, and this chain reaction, it reaches that you lose your reason. Can you see anyone who becomes angry and also become reasonable? So straight away the reason is gone. Is that right? And this is the chain reaction of anger. And so what happened? Then the loss of reason is the outcome of that. Then we say to ourselves, oh, I'm not reasonable, right? After some contemplation, I say I wasn't reasonable at that occasion.
Okay, so an example from the Word of God is in James 1:20, where it says, "The anger of man does not give glory to God." So any anger that is actually from your fleshly anger, it's unjustified anger, and normally the anger that is wrong is when you're angry because I did not. It's I, myself, and I. Right? Myself and I didn't get what I want. Whenever that anger is only selfish, right, then it's not justified. If it's anger because injustice towards others, then that anger is justified. But even that anger, justified anger, does not give you the license to do the wrong thing. As we saw in Nehemiah's example, is to we need to think about it. I will be with you, Behrooz, in a second. I just want to get. Can you put it up a bit for me so I can see the full? There's nothing else, is there? No. From anger, desire arises delusion. We said delusion. They are a misinterpretation of reality, right? That's what delusion is. So if you allow anger to take over, not reason, right? You need to control anger with reason. If you don't, if you allow anger to take over, then your perception of reality will be delusional. And confusion of memory. So confusion of memory is, in other words, like I forget how Behrooz was really nice to me all his life. Just because he said one word that I misinterpreted, I will be furiously angry and I won't talk to him. And so that's confusion of memory, because I have made this one particular situation out of all these years of relationship a most important situation for me. And that's being selfish and not looking at the whole picture of the relationship. So we tend to forget when we end up in delusional, right? When we allow anger to take over and it distorts reality, and we tend to forget the full story of the relationship or whatever the situation is. From confusion of memory, loss of reason. So these delusional, unclear reality that we have now perceived, and we are, in spite of other evidence that exists, we have accepted the delusional reality, and the memory will trigger loss of reason, right? Confusion of memory triggers loss of reason. We tend to use reason only for the delusional interpretation, not for the reality, actual reality. And that loss of reason will bring ruin. Ruin starts from inside. So you're already ruined on the inside. What will you do? You will become violent and react violently and make the ruin come on the outside. Yes, Behruz wants to say something.
Dear friends, I want to draw your attention to this very, very basic and very ancient truth that God has been with man and has guided man from eternity. For that reason, we visit the words of Bhagavad Gita here, which has been revealed more than 5,000 years ago. and visiting these quotations from the Bhagavad Gita, and with the knowledge that we get from the Bible, we see the communality, we see the traces of the basic truth enshrined in all the holy books. For that reason, Baha'is promote the idea of the oneness of religion. They believe there is one creator who has guided humanity from age to age and revealed his word throughout the world to Aborigines who were scattered in this part of the world and were cut off from the rest of the world, to the Eskimos who were in the North Pole and were cut off from the rest of the world, to Americans who were not known to the rest of humanity for thousands of years, but they were all guided by God. And if we go back to the words, which fortunately we have the honor of having preserved the word of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, we see that the DNA of the word of God, as recorded in the Bible, is here too. And that's why, as Baha'is, we pay homage and pay respect to all the holy books which are in the world. And we believe that they are all from one source, from one divine source. And in essence, there is no contradiction, there is no conflict. They are both all in harmony and in unity. And the underlying goal of all the words of God is development of human spirit, development of human reality, to bring mankind together in peace and in harmony. And today, more than any other time in the history of mankind, we as human beings have become woven together. We are so close together that these elders few days ago were in Holy Land. Today they are here, and we who were not in this country, we never knew where Australia is, we are here. We who were parents did not spoke a word of English, now we have learned a new language and we communicate with each other. So we understand each other. So this is the time that humanity has become close to each other more than ever before. And therefore it is required that we should contemplate to understand that they are one humanity basically. And for that reason, we should work towards harmony, towards peacefulness, towards cooperation and progress, all together, not one group against the other. This is a time of cooperation for all of us to exist and to live in harmony. Thank you.
Thank you, Berucha. Mr. Krishna, would you like to give us a bit of insight into the scripture number 62 and 63, please? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is a very beautiful shlokas given in Bhagavad Gita. Prior to this, I was listening to what Brother Behruz said I think he summarized the essential teachings of Baha'i faith to bring about a very fundamental common understanding of unity in diversity, or to put it in a better way, unity of all faiths, which is what we should always dwell upon, because it is that unity which can bring about one entire humanity as one family, which in truth is the reality. These two shlokas, or the phrases given in Bhagavad Gita, it dwells primarily on anger and desire, and this actually relates to both sides. One is what we call the mundane, the worldly, this reality where we live in day-to-day life, as how, due to attachments to the objects. Now, this sense object is a very, very broad thing. It doesn't only mean the material objects. I think it talks about any attachment that we have towards anyone. So this is what actually is the main cause, or when we have, this gives rise to desires. And very, very true that attachments do bring up desires in us. That's one of the factors. There are so many other factors as to what causes desire, but attachment is one, or the attachment to sense object is one of the main one. And then once the desire comes in, then within the desire is hidden anger. So if a desire is not fulfilled, and that unfulfilled desire rises to anger. And here Krishna says that from anger arises, see, within the anger actually sits what we call the fire of delusion. Delusion, as brother said, actually it is a distortion part of the reality. So one is not able to see the difference. So the unreal is taken as real, and real is taken as the unreal. This is what delusion does. And then actually when delusion comes in, then obviously there is a confusion, and this confusion is within our brain, our intellect, our memory, our thinking faculty. All these things is confused, and once it's confusion, then the thinking process, what we call the intellect. There's a beautiful shloka given in the scriptures called Vinash Kale Viprit Buddhi, which means that loss can bring about a total destruction of oneself. This is very practical ways which can be applied to day-to-day life, but I will just shed a little bit of light on people who are spiritual aspirants, who are working on the salvation. Anger is something which they should completely eliminate. Even if they can't do it, then they can actually manage or control. But it is just like you're playing with the fire. If you do not know how to handle that, it could burn yourself. It could burn your fingers. Your whole thing can be ruined. And I think anger, something should be treated like a zero-arm situation, where anger and also it's been given that any decision should not be made when one is angry. this is very practical message that in the state of anger, people generally and mostly make wrong decisions. So, because the reason behind this is that which is controlling the mind is the intellect, the intelligence. So the intelligence is distorted. So once your intelligence is distorted, you cannot make a correct decision. That's why at any given time, if a decision is to be made, it is always advisable to delay it, to postpone it, or when the mind is calm and cool, that's when you rethink about it. And then you will realize that, you know, what caused the anger, because you probably will find that the causes of anger were mainly the unfulfilled desires, our expectations, our greediness, a lot of other things. As I said, there are many factors which can cause anger. So anger is something which is very strongly been directed to control at all times. There are other things. There are other things as well. People say about greed, about hatred, which is another form of anger as well. So these are some things which we need to address very well. And Lord Krishna gives a very good insight that what causes anger and what is the result, or what anger can bring about if we are not very attentive and not very careful. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Krishna. That was very good. Okay, friends, our next part of the program is very interesting. This is from the Baha'i writing, and I may request Moretta to read this one.
All the divine principles announced by the tongue of the prophets of the past are to be found in the words of Baha'u'llah. But in addition to these, he has revealed certain new teachings which are not found in any of the sacred books of former times. I shall mention some of them. The others, which are many in number, may be found in the books. Abdul Baha.
Okay, here actually what Abdul Baha says that there are teachings that Baha'u'llah has brought, which is it's been announced by the prophets of the old, was announced by Jesus, by Moses, by Muhammad, right? But also he says apart from this, and by Krishna, by Buddha, and so, but apart from that, there are new things in this needed for this particular period of time. And he's going to give us some example. So tonight we are reading one example which is very relevant to our elders, the Aboriginal elders. And this is the one that has not been dealt previously. And we read it and we also get your opinion, and I request Leo to read it.
He has set forth a solution and provided the remedy for the economic question. No religious books of the past prophets speak of this important human problem.
Okay, he says the economic solution, the economic problem of the world has not been addressed. But Baha'u'llah is trying to address this important issue, how to solve the economic problem of the world, right? So he put quite a bit of concentration on the remedy to deal with the issue of solving the economic problem of the world, right? And here we got our brothers and sisters here from this land, which can give us the guidance. And this is very important, that where Baha'u'llah is trying to put our attention as how we can solve the economic problem of the world, right? The economic problem of the world is that why certain people are deprived and the other people have got in abundance. What is the remedy? What can be done, right? And so we're going to read this version, if you can read this.
Explaining the Baha'i approach to economic problem of the world needs 3 sessions.
First session. Okay, this is we're going to read version.
So, in the Lohe Donyami, the tablet of the world, Baha'u'llah exhorted humankind to pay special regard to agriculture, emphasizing its vital importance to the advancement of civilization. Abdul Baha further elaborated on this theme in his writings and talks, highlighting the role of the farmer as the first active agent in human society, and stating that the question of economics must commence with the farmer and then be extended to the other classes. The fundamental basis of the community is agriculture, tillage of the soil, He shared on another occasion, all must be producers.
Okay, now, before we hear Robert's view, Abdul says all must be producer, right? So, 235 years ago, before any settlement takes place, where all the Aborigines were producer or not. They were producer. They were getting out of the land and produce the crop in order to make their sustenance. Is that right, Sandro? So everyone was producer. Because of what? Because there was agriculture in place. Did you, over so many thousands of years, you needed things to come from other parts of the world to here? No. Where were you getting it? From the land. Is that right?
Yes.
You want to share some of your ideas? How was it done before?
As a child, I grew up in a very tribal background with my
Can you lift up your
My
voice? We're
parents?
recording it, yeah?
with my parents. I grew up a very tribal lifestyle, and what we did was we travelled around. We did our ancient boundaries, our ancestors, and what we did was to keep things sustainable. We used to just eat when the season was right from a particular portion of the land, and then when we'd move around in season, and as we left each season, we would slowly burn off the land. Just gently, not in such a harsh way where there'd be bushfires. And then we'd move on, and within that 12 months we would go right around in big circles to our areas, checking all our waterholes. And by the time we came back, the particular land where we left would be regenerated. So the land was there with food that had already grown for that time of the season. So that's how it was. We never were very harsh to our country.
Yeah.
And most of our advice that we've given to agriculture or to departments or rangers or farmers, they would never take our advice, and they wondered how we existed and how the land was always plentiful for us.
So in our understanding, we should say that for so many years, so many thousands of years, agriculture was the base of sustenance, and people were happy. They were getting everything they wanted because the base, which was agriculture, was in place and was taught to generation after generation as how to deal with it. And you had no economical problem at the time. Is that right? No economical problem. There was no financial hardship because you attended the most important one, which was agriculture.
I think the word that they were producer doesn't apply to, they were gatherer, hunter-gatherer. But in the cyclic movement that they had, they would give chance to the nature
Regenerate.
to regenerate, to produce. So because they were, it was not today's society is a consumer society. We pay so much attention to things that we don't need. We overeat, we overindulge, we are obese in our approach to what. But at the time that Aborigines lived in this land, first of all, they had a vast area to move from season to season, as Sister Sandra said, and also they would respect the land and they would honor everything that exists on the land. So they were in harmony with nature. They lived in harmony with nature, not as producers. Producers are now that produce more than what they need, and they market it in other parts of the world. You know, we are the producers, and these are because we go to excessive and inappropriate use of land, and we kill the land, we annihilate the land, and these we are producer in not in moderation, in excess. We are indulged nation. We are the world of indulgence. We have put out of the circle of moderation.
Yeah. So please, brother.
For us, there's 12 months in the year, and for us there are 12 cycles. 12 cycles in the year. And as my forefathers and mothers travelled across our land up in Cape York, they were part of the land. The land was a part of them. There was no separation. And so there was a great respect for nature, for the fish, for the animals. There was great respect for the trees. There was great respect for the fruit, for the vegetables that sustained their lives. And so they took care of the country. They took care of the land. They took care of the waters. They took care of everything. They were part of it, and it was a part of them. So everything meshed perfectly. Everything meshed perfectly. There was no animosity between the human being and nature. So for that reason, our forefathers knew that they had to respect the land in order for the land to take care of them. So there was no abuse, no greed. If they were in a certain place for a month, they just took what was necessary for the day.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow they hunted or they took what they needed for tomorrow. But they left elements there of the fish, of the animals, of the fruit, of the vegetables. They left there so that they moved on to the next month over here. But in 12 months they came back and that had replenished itself. The fish had grown. The animals had grown, the fruit had grown, the vegetables had grown to sustain them. So there actually was agriculture there. There actually was. And they would take seeds or fruit from here and plant it in another area, or go back over here and plant it. And again, that continued cyclical.
Okay, now the question is that the people are suffering with poverty around the world. Okay, they don't have roof over their head, they don't have the food on the table, and they're suffering. So, and now the Baha'i Faith is trying to address the economical problem of the world. Now, as elders, what do you suggest to people how to solve the problem with the poverty they are facing, right? With the poverty, forget about this place. Just think broadly over other places where the people don't have and the children are dying of hunger. What is your solution to those people?
I can tell you now, but you don't want to hear it.
You say it. Yeah, but do you agree agriculture is one of the rightful agriculture is one of the very bases that they need to learn from you and to follow your example in order how to look after the land. Because if we look after the land, we have got the food to feed ourselves. That's a very basic logic, that if we look after the land, we can feed, and the hunger will go.
Okay, in the words of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, we read in the first part that if we are attached to the object senses, then we'll end up with anger. This is how the condition of the world it is today. That few individuals or few families, they have wiped out generations of hundreds of families from the land, pushed them aside, and then one family has sat in the place of 500 families and has possessed the entire land and has brought the land under industrial agriculture.
Mhm.
Where the intention is not to feed his family, the intention is to send these products to market and make millions in their bank account. And then they have to travel first class all over the world for a seat that I'll pay $2,000. They will spend $10,000 as if nothing has happened to them.
Yeah.
Because they have amassed so much wealth. And this is the imbalance in the world. You know, Abdul Baha says all must be producer. But today in our economy, one family are the producer, and the rest are the slaves working on the farm, on their land for them. So they have brought slavery to a world. You know, American took thousands of the African to America as slaves. Why? Because they wanted to be producer, but only monopoly of production. What Abdul Baha says that this production must be the job of everybody. It means that the agriculture must employ the largest number of people. But today it's not like that.
Yeah.
Today one machine does the job of 200 people.
Yeah.
And that machine is owned only by one person.
Yeah.
And that person per day earns more than what I earn per year.
Yeah.
So these are the imbalances in our society, because we have become slaves of the satisfaction of the senses object.
Yeah.
Because we are keeping making palaces all over the road. There are families who fly their children. I know. My daughter was talking of the CEO of her company that from Canada to Germany, he just fly single person with an airplane that has a pilot, have people who cook and provide food, and he comes to Germany to attend a 2-hour seminar and go back to Canada. So there are so much wealth in our world, while people still live in this world that walk barefoot. So these are the imbalances.
Leo.
I can relate to your story. I grew up in a village where you don't need to be a fisherman to catch anything, because anybody can catch fish. But we didn't have any refrigerator to store anything, so we just take what we need for our meal. That assured that the resources will be there. So when it comes to the subject tonight, Baha'u'llah said that service to humanity is service to God. Simple as that. Service to humanity is service to God. When we are serving humanity, we care for each other. The problem that we all know today is that I relate back to the fishing ships that when they got caught in the South Pacific, they have these massive nets operated by helicopters. They just whip up anything in the ocean. As a result, we, the islanders that rely on these resources, is running dry. So therefore, we are suffering. But I think the point here today is that when the desire, the end result is selfish, then we don't care about each other. And this is why Baha'u'llah said that in today's age and our capacity of understanding, we need to appreciate this service to humanity. This service to humanity is a selfless service that we perform for each other, and then we'll be all right.
Thank you, Leo. Yes, much.
Just wanna share something very small regarding reading the beautiful writings of Abdul Baha makes me very happy. Makes me really happy and proud of my parents and all my ancestors, because they were great and happy farmers. Yeah, I grew up, I'm a farm girl, I was born in a farm, grew up in a farm, and my parents owned massive plantations and they were very happy and healthy. But looking at, and their parents as well, like all my ancestors were great farmers. And when I was looking at that, I said, wow, I'm so proud of them. Highlighting the role of the farmer as the first active agent in human society. And up until today, my brothers are all great farmers. We're still growing crops. Even around our house, you hardly see any empty soil. We're growing everything every day. Isn't that beautiful? And to see our beautiful parents here makes us all proud as well.
True.
And
So
such an honor to have you all here tonight. Really a blessing.
Robert.
Right, so from the beginning of times, man has started with farming, and we read in creation, in the time of creation in Genesis, that man was farming and looking after animal, domestic animal. So from Adam and his sons. Now the problem that has arisen from the beginning is that when the human society was split by the two brothers, one Cain killed his brother, and he was no longer a farmer. What he has done, he started, his descendants started mining, so they were mining gold and other metal objects and all that. So they didn't do the farming, and that community changed from farming into living, and they were the first ones that built cities and lived in cities. So then this division of farm life and city life began. So when that began, there was an exchange between the two communities. Now the farming communities needed tools, and the city communities made those tools and shared them with the farming communities. So the city communities were they were not ethical people, because they came from, their ancestor was a killer of humanity, so he killed his own brother, and so they were very rough people. And so over the time, the mixture of these two communities had corrupted much of the community of the world at the time. So we see in the beginning of this story is telling us that the pollution of the earth started with mining. We know that mining does pollute the earth, whether it is mining of minerals like mining of gold mining pollutes the resources of water, and because they wash the things and they try to use mercury, and mercury pollutes the water, and many cities that live next to mining communities have developed certain problems with their nerves, and they have nerves disorders. So now, so we here see the struggle of humanity from the beginning with pollution and with farming, and we see that farming has been given as an option that will help humanity. However, the increase of the humanity has made the increase in number, of course, in humanity has made the old farming techniques obsolete, because we need to provide for more people and for more human beings to sustain ourselves as a population in this world. So what has happened over the years, especially in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution, and we can see that now in the explosion of knowledge, and the Industrial Revolution has changed things totally, and that the same thing has happened that happened in the beginning, that there was a competition between the farmers and the people who city dwellers. So many farmers during the Industrial Revolution, they quitted their farming practices and decided to go to join the city, and then there became a shortage of farming. That was one of the problems that we had to overcome. Then with the Industrial Revolution, we came up with all these equipments that can help us farm massive areas of land with these equipments without needing much labor. So that helped us, but the problem is, and right from the beginning, God has set a rule in Israel. Israel was a farming community, and the blessings of their in Deuteronomy 28, he says, "I will bless you. I will give you rain. You will have products, and things your land will prosper, and blah blah blah. If you keep my commandments." And one of the commandments that he gave, that once every 6 years, the seventh year, you do not use the land, because the land needs to revitalize itself. So now we as a nation, and some producing nations, have not been able to do that. They have not practiced that. They continue to use the same land year after year, and that eventually sucks the oxygen and the hydrogen on the necessary minerals of the land to be a producing land. So in order to do that, to make it more productive, they have come up with chemicals that they will put into the land, and that will increase the hydrogen of the land. And so basically, that was an invention by one of the scientists who was hurled in the 19th century as the best scientist, and he was recommended for a Nobel Prize. But then he was a German scientist. He was also opposed to by many scientists in the end, and did not like him, because the same scientists that actually benefited us and helped us not to have a hunger worldwide by inventing this chemical that will actually, revitalize the land without having to wait 1 year, every 6 years. So the same scientists had invented the chemical weapons, and which were used in the Second World War to kill many people by Hitler. So therefore, he was denied denied that Nobel Prize that he was recommended to. So basically, we look at the economy, but now with all the technology that we have, there's only one problem, and the problem is, as I said before, is not that we don't have enough land to farm, but we are dealing with colonial powers and powers that are actually controlling the nations to benefit certain individuals that are on top of the what you call a pile of humanity, which is only a number, 1% of humanity, that is the rich people of the humanity. And so therefore, in that particular thing, that becomes the biggest problem. The biggest problem is not that we cannot solve the problem of hunger, but not that we don't have enough to solve it, but the problem is that this 1% of people on top, that they want to have full control of the world. And they are non-governmental entities, these people. So they want open markets. That's why open markets are, throughout the world are actually encouraged and all that. They don't want any borders. They don't want any. So there's, it's one thing to believe as Baha'is that in the goodness of humanity, and to advance these unity amongst humanity, and to believe that everyone that talks about unity of humanity in politics have the same agenda as Baha'is. The Baha'is might have the good thing in heart to advance good things and serve humanity, but these people who are the 1%ers, the globalists, they do not have that goodness in heart. In fact, they have the agenda of reducing humanity population from 8 billion to 1 billion.